Thank you very much for the opportunity. I've already been introduced by the moderator. I'm going to give you a presentation on social protection for informal sectors in Namibia from a policy and program perspective. I thought I was going to be lucky because when I was looking at the program, there was a presentation that was supposed to come before mine, and that was supposed to come from Ministry of Trade and Industry. So I thought he was going to set some records for me, but then I've been unfortunate, so I think I need to go into more detail as possible. So that's the outline of my presentation. I'll give you a little bit on the situation analysis. I'll also talk about the current programs that the government is implementing, given that the social protection is a social responsibility. I'll then talk about the challenges in the informal economy, and then I'll conclude by providing reforms in the proposals that will be able to make social protection in Namibia so inclusive. So to start off the presentation, I will start by defining social protection from this presentation's perspective. So like the previous presenters have presented, we have different definitions of what social protection and also what informal economy is. But for the purpose of this presentation, I will define social protection as a set of systems, or rather a system of public policies and programs that assist the poor and the most vulnerable people to prepare for the risk and cope with the shocks throughout their lifetime. So the key message in this definition is who are we targeting? So the most poor and vulnerable part of the society is our target. And then in terms of informal economy, which is sometimes referred to as the grey economy, it's the economy that is made up of enterprises that are neither taxed nor regulated by any form of government. So the activities that are undertaken are sometimes not included in the GDP of the country. So in terms of informality, what we can say is that it can also be seen from a perspective of individuals that comprises those in employment or in self-employment that have no proper contracts according to the labor laws and the lack of social securities, medical aid, decent wages, and safe working conditions. So from a national goal perspective, what we want as a country is to have a more effective and also efficiency social protection system that is also inclusive. So when we talk about inclusivity, we want a social protection system where even the less fortunate and those that are in informal economies are included or are rather socially protected. So in terms of situation analysis, I want to give the audience a bit of a feel on where we are standing in terms of poverty in the country. So as you can see on the graph, for a period of 13 years, from 2013-14 to 2015-16, Namibia had been able to reduce poverty for the poor and the severe poor from 37.5 and 21% to 17.4 and 11%. So with that having been said, we can really see that the programs that we are putting as a country is working. Although 17 and 11 is not really ideal for a country like Namibia, but we need to recognize the effort, and we look forward to reducing it even further. And in terms of food poverty, we have been able to reduce it from 11 to 6% during the 2015-16 period. So we still have people in the country that are food insecure. So in terms of inequality, so much has been done, yes, but we are really not winning in terms of inequality. As you can see that from 2003 and 4 to 2015-16, which is the same period of 13 years, we have only reduced inequality from 0.60 to only 0.56. And the ideal situation is for us at least to have inequality of closer to 0. And we are not even halfway. So it shows that much effort really needs to be done so that we are able to reduce inequality. And the reason why I highlighted on poverty and inequality, these two are the ones or the reason for the need of social protection. Because if we don't have poor people and we are equal in terms of income, we would not have or we wouldn't need too much of social protection programs. So I also provided some data on the population and also in terms of labor force. So from the labor force survey that was conducted in 2016, we have seen that Namibia's population stands at 2.3. And out of that, we have people that are economically active, and it stands at 1 million. Those that are economically inactive, it stands at 451.9, and if we are to include the under 15, because they are also not active to work. So the under 15 stands at 846.2 million. So in terms of percentage-wise, what we can see in terms of employment and unemployment, we only have a population of, the labor active people who are employed, the total is 66%. And then those that are not employed, it stands at 34%. So the unemployment rate in the country currently stands at 34%. So now the existence of informal employment, it now comprises of some in this employed, because like it was also earlier indicated, some of the people that they are employed, but they are informally employed because some of them, they don't have contracts, some of them they are undergoing challenging working conditions. So they are, portion of them, they are standing in here, while most of them are lying under unemployed. So from a government perspective, we can see that the government of Namibia has already committed itself toward the providing social protection for all, and this can be evidenced from its budget provision. So for the current budget, the 2018-19 budget, there is provision of 8.7% funds that are earmarked for programs of social protection nature. So social safety net programs plays a huge role in reducing or eradicating poverty and also reducing income, gaps. And this is done through provision of education, provision of food, as well as healthcare. And then it's also evident from the National House and Income Expenditure Survey that the grants that the government is providing plays a huge role in terms of reducing poverty. So it has significantly reduced poverty. So I will then give you some of the programs that the government is currently implementing that are aimed to reduce poverty and also minimize the income gaps. So one of the programs that the government is implementing is the old age and disability grants, with the beneficiaries standing at 213.3 thousand, and they are getting an amount of 1,250 per month. And for the child grant, we have about 693,000 children that are beneficiaries of the child grant. And currently, the coverage stands at 37% of the children population, which is 991,000. So in these ones, they are getting a 250 per month. On the War Veteran Grant, the figure in terms of beneficiary stands at 271, and they are earning an amount of 2,200 per month. And on this one, it's only given to those that are either unemployed or have a lower income on the threshold that is provided. And then we have programs for marginalized. I'm sure Mr. Kamatuka is going to be angry if I don't mention this, because he's one of those people that are behind it and they really need support. So in terms of marginalized communities, they have beneficiaries, students and learners that they are supporting in terms of education, either at a primary level or at an institution of higher learning level, where they have 829 students that they are supporting. So, and with that support, they, in addition to the support, they also give them an amount varying from between 500 and 1,000 per month as a living allowance. So, in addition to the grant that they are providing, they also have communities that they are providing food to, and is currently standing at 182,000 households. So there is provision for food under the Marginalized Community Program. So school feeding is also a safety net program. It's currently 894,000 kids or students, children are receiving school feedings, or they are receiving food at the schools, and 1,456 schools, they are currently distributing food to the kids when they come to school. So the amount budgeted for this year stands at 109.7 million. So for maternity, Olga is here. Maybe she will assist us with the beneficiaries, but we don't have data today. But what we can say, there is provision for maternity, and then they have a maximum amount of 13,000 that they give to the mothers that go on maternity leaves. We have the food bank programs under the Ministry of Poverty, Eradication and Social Welfare that distribute food to the people or the most poor people in the urban, and this is to complement the assistance that is being given by the Office of the Prime Minister under disaster risk management. So the disaster risk management is given to the people that are in the rural area, while the food bank is given to those that reside in peri-urban and urban parts of the country. So food bank currently, it has been rolled out to 4 regions, and then we have beneficiaries of about 16,000 households. And the budget for the food bank stands at 52 million for this current financial year. So for the disaster risk management, in 2016-17, we got a figure that the disaster risk management was able to assist about 595.8 thousand beneficiaries, and that is the period where there was natural disasters of drought. So I'm now going to highlight, because I'm going to highlight the programs that we are implementing, the one that I previously indicated, how they are responding to the risks of life. So, for example, the old age and disability grant, veteran grant, as well as the marginalized grant, they respond to the issues of poverty, aging, as well as inability. While the child grant and early childhood development programs of government and the school feeding, they respond to the issues or the risk of childcare supports, nutrition, as well as school attendance. So, like for example, the school feeding is put in place so that we are able to keep kids at school. And when we keep them at school, they will be active because they have at least received a meal. Because some of them from home, they don't eat before they go to school, so at least they will then have that privilege to eat. Then they will be active. So for maternity, sick leave, and death benefits is to respond to the shocks of maternal, infant mortalities, illness, as well as to give assurance for the lifetime of the people. So we also have programs that benefits the youth and women, as well as the SMEs. And the reason why we are doing that is we want to prevent the risk of unemployment as well as income insecurity. Support to the farmers is for natural disasters, productivity, as well as food insecurity, while the vocational training and skill development is to break the gaps in terms of skill and also to increase employment. So we have other programs of government that I have not listed. I only listed some of them. And those ones include, like, for example, the provision that is being given to the students for the Namibia students financial assistance to assist the students to enroll or further their studies. So there are many programs that the government is currently implementing, and they are aimed toward providing supports in terms of social safety net and also for the provision of social protection. So I have highlighted some of the reasons why we need to have social protection, and I have touched on the issues of poverty and inequality, investment in skill development, productivity, and increase resilience, And social protection is also seen as one of the catalysts for sustainable economic growth. But of course, it should be growth that is proper. This one, I want to highlight a little bit, but the earlier speakers have already talked about it, on the who are the players. So most of the players have been mentioned by the preceding presenters, but for the purpose of this presentation, let me just indicate that the informal sector's occupational group includes the SMEs, the domestic workers, agricultural workers, hairdressers, street vendors, as well as home-based workers. So those are just some of the categories of the occupations that forms informal sector. Now we have to answer the question of why they exist. So the informal sectors exist because of tenuous and demanding regulations. So for one to register in a business and also maybe file tax returns, that process is really discouraging. As the Honorable Minister had indicated earlier, there is bureaucracy, and that discourages people to register or to move from formal to stay in informal. And you can imagine the problem that we have is that we don't have a one-stop shop where registration can be done. So imagine you have to register your business. You need to run to Ministry of Trade. After running from Trade, you need to find even an accountant for your business for you to be registered. And then again, you run to Social Security, you run to Employment Equity Commission, Ministry of Finance, and it requires money. And this is the money that these people don't have. So that's why some of them, they are really ideal to register. It's not that they don't want, but the process is really discouraging. And then, as a result, many informal economy, they disregard the labor laws. There is also weakness in the enforcement. So as a result, they are exposed to unsafe working conditions, and now they lack social security and also inadequate medical insurance at the workplace. So some of them, they are employed, yes, but they don't have those benefits. So challenges continues. So informal economy, we have indicated that they are not regulated. Some of them are not even have a fixed workplace, and this is due to their unregistered nature. So the informal economy is very large and is diversified, and there is also no legislation that will regulate the existence of the informal sector. So in addition to that, there are also lack of platforms for which they can air their views. So informal workers also, they have multiple jobs, of which some are seasonal. And because also of the nature of their work, sometimes they don't even have time to have platforms so that they can have discussions on how they can benefit from some of the program, because most of the time they are trying to catch up on the income. So the labor survey indicated that about 66.5% of the people that are employed, they are in informal employment because they have no provision for pension funds, they have no provision for medical aid, as well as social security. And this now causes them to risk such as health risk and also retirement benefits. So whenever they reach that age, they will not have any other source of income other than perhaps the grant that the government is currently providing. So that exposes them to risks. So I'll then, in conclusion, do the reforms and the proposal that are being put forward for us to ensure that there's inclusivity in terms of social protection, and that would then include the people that are in the informal economy. So number one have been mentioned already. We need to develop and implement a national pension fund as per the Social Security Act. So the Social Security Act have made provision for a national pension fund, but implementation or the development rather have not yet kicked off. That's why we are saying we need to develop and implement this part or this section of the Social Security Act. So this will then include provision of a provident fund, which is voluntary entry and exit, and it can then attack informal business and workers. So in addition to that, the Act for Social Security have also made provision for a national medical benefit fund, but this one have also not been implemented. I have been informed that Ministry of Health is looking at how they can develop, and I think the development process have started. So we also need to encourage voluntary participation through Social Security Commissions. So like it had been earlier indicated, Social Security Commissions, these people or the workers in the informal sectors, their job is not fixed. So sometimes they have and sometimes they don't have, as it was indicated in the video. So we then need to have measures on how we can help them for them to benefit in terms of social protection, Social Security Act. So as a part of the reform, we also need to simplify the business registration process. We need to establish a one-stop shop where a person can enter in the room, and when they leave that room, they have already registered with all necessary institutions of that as per the requirements. We also need to enhance capacity for the informal sectors to reduce their economic and social risks. We need to organize informal economies into cooperative and increase access to finance. So one of the reasons why the informal sector exists to the extent that it exists is because these people, they are also not organized. So if we can help them so that we organize them into groups of cooperative, so that this will even increase their chances of getting access to finance, because most of them, they also have a problem because they don't have capital to keep up their business or even to start off for that matter. So efforts should also be made to formalize the sector through empowerment, business supports, training, coaching, and mentorship. So we are also saying that we need to fully implement the blueprint on wealth redistribution and poverty eradication, because most of the activities that have been highlighted under the blueprint on wealth redistribution and poverty eradication can cater for the informal economies, and it can also help us to extend social protection. For example, the implementation of the BIG, it had been proposed as one of the activities in the blueprint on wealth redistribution, and we are saying that the basic income grant, some of the people, they are against it. They are saying it will encourage a tendency of dependence, but I sometimes listen to these conversations, and I want these people to imagine, or rather put themselves into the shoes of those people that are not that are excluded. And even if when we understand that there is really a need for us to cater the gap that is currently existing. And when we talk about the gap, it's the people between the age of 18 and 59, those that are not included in any of the grants, so that at least that grant can form a base of an incentive for them to come up with something that they can help themselves on. And my last point would be on the need to finalize and implement a social protection framework. So this one, the Ministry of Poverty Eradication and Social Welfare is busy formulating a social protection policy so that it guides the implementation of social protection for the country. And I think this conference came at the right time because the policy document is still in a draft form. So the recommendations that are going to come from this platform will be considered in the finalization of the social protection policy framework, so that we will be able to cover the informal sector when we finalize the development of this policy.